There are many bands from the 70s that went largely unnoticed despite their significant contribution to rock and roll. We'll talk about a hard-rockin' Welsh power trio that deserves a listen coming up next on Music Meanderings.
We are the music makers, and we are the dreamers of dreams.
This is Music Meanderings, and I tell you, this is another group I had not heard of until recently. They just didn't really make all that much impact in the U.S. We'll talk about that a little bit later. So the band I'm talking about is Budgie. No, not that Budgie. It's a power rock trio from Cardiff, Wales. They formed in the late 60s. The BBC says metal music was still in its molten stage when Budgie came along. I like that. And they call them one of the premier acts of the new wave of British heavy metal. Considered by many to be one of the earliest examples of the heavy metal genre. The original lineup consisted of bass player and singer Burke Shelley, Tony Borge on guitar and vocals, and Ray Phillips on drums. Now, Shelley says at the time they were competing for studio time with Black Sabbath, who was recording their early demos at the same time. And Budgie was just heavily influenced by bands like Led Zeppelin. So what's up with the name? The band chose the name because it was kind of diametrically opposed to the noisy heavy rock that they were putting out. Now, their first album was recorded with Black Sabbath producer Roger Bain. The band would release 10 albums between 1971 and 1982. Then Ray Phillips left the band right before their fourth album, the classic In for the Kill, was recorded. He was replaced by drummer Pete Boot. Now, Budgie's music was described in the All Music Guide as a cross between Rush and Black Sabbath. As I said before, I'd throw some Led Zeppelin in there for sure as well, because they're very blues-based. It's easy to understand the Rush comparison since Shelley's vocals are in a similar range to Geddy Lee's, and they both play bass. In fact, I would say if you're not a Rush fan, you probably wouldn't be a Budgie fan. They are very similar. Now, many of the early hard rock groups give Budgie credit as being an important early influence. In fact, I found it interesting to find out that Van Halen used to play Budgie covers when they were back in their early days, back in their club days. Metallica released a cover of probably one of the most popular Budgie songs, and that is Bread Fan. Metallica released that on their 1998 album, Garage Inc. Now, if you haven't heard anything by Budgie, this is probably a good place to start. Bread Fan is a great song that talks about a person's relationship with money, which is 60s and 70s slang is bread. And it talks about the moral dilemmas on what to do with money. Keep it? Do you give it away? Do you spend it? Or be ultimately free of it and not let it roll your life? Their albums had some chart success in the UK. 1974's In for the Kill and 1975's Bandolier charted pretty well in the UK. The band had several lineup changes in their brief history, with leader Burke Shelley always being the constant. Shelley died in early 2022 at the age of 71. If you like hard rock, power trios, kind of in the vein of Rush, Led Zeppelin, that sort of thing, definitely check them out. A band that I can't believe they weren't more popular in the U.S. than they were. And that's Music Meanderings. Thanks for joining us. Please comment below and subscribe to the channel.